How's it going?
Hello, hello. Busy day, busy day.
Oh, for sure.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty well, I can't complain. How are you?
Doing good. Just finally finished up the end of quarter stuff yesterday, so getting ready for vacation this weekend. It'll be
All
nice.
right. Sweet.
Hello, guys. Hi.
Howdy, howdy.
Mm. I was wondering whether it was bad connectivity at my place, but that's not usually the case. So I just saw just a few of you and no cameras on and no Kevin and nobody really. Let me see whether Kevin will join. He didn't say anything, right? I didn't see him saying anything about missing.
No, he's around. Oh, let's put it away. I've been talking to him this morning. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I will give him. I wonder. Whether Google changes sometimes when you change the time zone. Whether Google changes the link. Just give me a sec. I will post the link to the call just in case in the chat. Yeah. I realize this. The one in the intersect calendar is different. Exactly. Hi, Adam. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Ross. We were following the link from that was in the Intersect calendar. Also.
Yeah. I suppose that was something to be checked for. I thought I saw that Google changed when we changed time zone or something like that. It is strange, but we should check. Tex, let's check this offline after the call or anything. So just to make sure that the Intersect calendar and TSC are in sync over links. Okay, the stage is yours, Chair.
Just give me a second to copy the minutes and action, the agenda and actions.
Sure.
So Ian has rejoined us as well. So I'll just pin those for the benefit of anyone joining. Great. So welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 1st of April 2026. No April Fool's jokes today, I'm pleased to say. At least none that I've noticed, which is probably a problem. So we've got a fairly packed agenda. Welcome to guests Thomas, Adam, and Ian. We have 4 TSC members present, myself, Ryan, Leandro, and Neil. So we are not quorum, so any decisions that are taken will have to be ratified outside this meeting. Okay. So conventionally what we do is we start with the actions of the previous meeting. Thomas, you're only here for the first item. Do you want us to take that out of order and then you can leave and then we can go back to the actions from the previous meeting? Or are you happy with us going through the agenda items in order?
I'll hang around the full meeting, so you do it however you want.
Great. Well, then we'll go through the actions from previous meeting as usual, just to check where we are. And as usual, if anyone has any items to add to the agenda, please raise them in the chat now, and we'll attempt to include them in the agenda. So actions from the previous meeting, Bobska.
Okay, sure. So it was Kevin and Uday to meet with Intersect representatives to clarify the division of security budget between Security Council, OSC, and TSC. So up to you, Kevin and Uday. Did that happen? What's the outcome?
That hasn't happened, Bobska. I've not had enough time, I'm afraid, but I will. I was hoping Uday would be on the call so I could sync up with him, but I will take an action to sync up with him out of the call.
So this thing stays on the list, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a major problem. The issue, just for Adam's benefit, there are some items that we're proposing in our budget that relate to the Security Council. There are items that the OSC is proposing and items that Intersect is proposing. We just need to make sure that we're covering everything coherently, that things go into the right place. So we might update the TSC budget with additional items, for example, if they're more appropriately covered by ours, but we're not trying to steal anything that the OSC is doing.
Excellent.
Just for clarity, there is alignment internally with the Cardano Tech team that the OSC would not be requesting the bug bounty or the security incident officer, since that would be included in the Intersect proposal. So I just want to clear that conflict.
Great. But what I'm assuming, Tex, as we continue with the TSC and OSC members of the Security Council jointly overseeing the disbursement of the bug bounty.
Correct. There's supposed to be specific language that the OSC and TSC are still involved in the review process and any program changes. It's just Intersect as the budget holder.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, Kevin and Neil to collaborate on the revised proposal for professional technical reviews that includes risk registers and higher due diligence standards.
Hasn't happened yet, Bosco. I would say that's probably, unless there's something which needs to be reflected in the budget proposal, which we can discuss, I think we can probably say that's less urgent.
Okay, agreed. The next one on the Andros update the 2030 KPI document with the latest feedback from the product committee and share the community driven initiatives memo. So
Yes.
on that.
Not too much to say about it. I had a call this week with researchers from IOG about getting a better measurement of the chain quality. Basically, we landed back on the chain density, but they helped me break down the chain density into the 3 components that would dictate it. And they had one interesting note that would be to change the measurement window instead of a per epoch to a Genesis range window. So that would give us a better indicator of security against long-range attacks. It's a nitpick. It's not really that critical, but I'm bringing it forward for discussion if this makes sense. Change. The problem with the Genesis window is that we don't have a precise start point and end point to take the measurement in a consistent way. So we'd have to redesign a bit the way we measure it.
So do you want to discuss that later in this meeting, Leandros, or offline?
Yes, definitely. After the call, I'm meeting with the product committee again about this thing. So at any point we have time to talk about it, I'll be here and grateful.
Yeah, so let's try to include some time in the agenda for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Next on text to share the confirmed time slots for the upcoming election X Spaces and virtual hub events in the chat and Slack. So did that happen, Tex? I suppose it did. I wasn't here last week, so you here? Tex?
Let's assume that Tex has either done that or will do that.
Okay, I can ask in a different way. Are you all aware of the times and time slots when the X Space and Virtual Hub will happen? Neil, one.
Yes, it was posted in the Slack channel.
Great.
Perfect. Done. Kevin reviewed the notes 10.7 pre-release note and provide final TSC approval for the release. So there are other news after that. So yeah.
Done immediately after the last week's meeting.
Okay, great. And the last 2 are on me, and I didn't do a thing on them due to other stuff. Traveling and to Argentina, and then these other picking up more priority items this week. So I will handle this. So it was investigate the feasibility of an RSS feed for TSC updates for better communication, and then again to coordinate a tool pool to schedule the private linear layers risk management deep dive with Sebastian, if there is still an interest for that. So those 2 keep lingering in the background, but they will be handled.
Yeah, so
that's for. Yep.
I think we definitely want to progress both of those BOSCOs. The technical communication for Adam's benefit is something that we have been looking to improve, conscious of the gap there, and we need to try to improve it. We had asked in the budget for a communications officer, but that has been lifted to an intersect level. Role. And the doodle poll, I think we want to discuss the risks of layoffs. The layoffs meeting is actually happening right now, so it conflicts with this meeting. So unfortunately, Sebastian can't attend, but we absolutely ought to schedule a session. If you don't have time, I will just kick off some doodle polling myself. Bosco,
feel free. I'm not. Maybe it's about the approach to this. So if you are familiar enough with it, by all means, jump in.
I can do it. We've probably spent more time discussing it than it will take.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that's the full list of the action items. There's nothing more on it, so I suppose we can go with the agenda.
Great. So first item on the agenda, CC min-size timing. So Thomas Linseth is here. I think Adam's probably going to be interested in this discussion. So Thomas, given that we're not expecting to produce the Plutus cost model update on mainnet in the near term, there might be an opening to progress the CC min size reduction. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So following the ISC call on Monday, myself, Bosco, Kevin, Ian, and Larissa was in a quick call to discuss exactly that, whether or not it's a sensible time to submit the CC min size parameter change. I have been talking with civics members, and they have already voted that they would like to see this governance action. They did not vote on timing, so the feedback from civics is that if there's time, they are supportive of it. So the question remains: is it so by submitting a CC min size governance action tomorrow, which means in this epoch, will that delay the Plutus cost model anything at all? If not, the recommendation from civics is to go ahead with CC min size tomorrow.
Neil, so when we discussed the Plutus cost model update before, you were proposing to give the community time to provide us with feedback on any impact. So we've had a bit of feedback from gathered by Alex. I've raised the issue with Pi Lanningham, not had any response. The community's been very quiet about this.
I have a concern because of the change of the nature of the parameters, because they've gone up for pre-existing activities. There is this technical possibility that transactions will not have the appropriate ADA paying for them as they cross. They won't declare themselves correctly as they when they create new transactions. So my concern, as to say, is crossing the actual epoch boundary when this is actually done. Transactions might fail because they're badly costed, and people who have been lazy in doing their pricing and don't do their pricing each time, but take some optimization, may get caught out. I just want to make sure that were they to get caught out, we have done our darn best to tell them they should have looked. Okay, that's my problem. So how on earth this is again down to the communication. Adam.
Yeah, thank you. So that's what in regards to the Plutus cost model. So I guess what would be the scenario where they would not be paying enough ADA for the transaction to go through? Would it be because they have not updated their tools to take it into account, or because they aren't?
There were two. So
or what?
The transition across the boundary, right, is one of timing. You create it in one, and you use it in another. The tools problem is that we know there are people who are lazy, who pick numbers, and they don't change those numbers. They don't actually go and evaluate the cost of processing the transaction. They create a number, and then they just reuse that number when they build the transaction. Okay, so those are the sort of and some people are very lazy and just set the numbers at full anyway, including various people inside IO, it turns out once. So it turns out that so I'm just saying it's that, that's the circumstance. Does that make sense? Basically, they're using old information. They don't notice the information's changed. Normally, if the costs were being reduced, for these, they have to use this particular. There's 2 or 3 operations whose cost has gone up, right? Normally, up to this point, actually, either they're new parameters or the costs have gone down. So this is the first time we've ever had costs going up. That's my problem.
Yeah, I see. How do I put this? I guess, how much do we think that communicating with people will change this? I mean, if they aren't listening to us now, will additional time talking?
No,
Or will it be until they actually hit reality?
the suggestion was 1 month. We blitzed them, told them it was coming, right? Took their opportunity for them to object to raise objections, right? The assumption would be that having told everybody there would be no objections or there'd be spurious ones, and then we engage in it. Then when those people get caught out, we can say, not us guys, we did our best. You weren't listening.
Yeah, but didn't we already publish this and start the socialization process?
We did. We've not had a lot of response back.
Yeah, but only by a couple of weeks. That as far as I'm concerned, we're 2 weeks into that month, right?
Yeah. So what could happen here, Neil, is we could allow the CC min size reduction to overtake the Plutus parameter upgrade. That will give a bit more time.
Yeah.
For the socialization, and then depending on the outcome of the CC min size.
I would suggest once the CC min size is either locked in or completed, depending on how, depends on you can tell when it's about to happen, if it's going to happen, right? We can then assume it's happening and then start the second one off. We don't need to wait for it to finish entirely, right?
Well, maybe. I think that the Plutus cost model is probably more likely to pass than the CC min size because the CC min size has a higher threshold, I think, right? What's the I guess my fear would be the danger of if it does fail, you're going to have to build it as a dependency on the previous one, whichever one you put first. Now, I know that CC min size is not necessary before the hard fork, but I was under the impression that Plutus cost model is preferred to have passed before the hard fork. Is it preferred or a necessity before the hard fork?
It's preferred, Adam. It's not a necessity.
Yeah.
But if it's not passed before the hard fork, the new primitives won't be available.
Right. Yeah. That was, I guess, my understanding.
We'll come back to the timing of the hard fork later, but based on what Bosco was estimating yesterday, it could be late June to July before the hard fork is enacted.
I guess one question would be Neil, I guess I see what you're saying about giving everybody a month. If we waited for another couple of weeks, do you think that would be sufficient to then put out the...
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we're already 2 weeks into the month. Okay, right? So the whole point was, the idea was, give them a finite but non-trivial period of time to complain, advertise it as best as we can, right? And then when because somebody's going to be upset by it, right? It's almost certain that somebody will be upset by it. We have at least said we did our best, right? And this is and then they'll argue, well, you don't communicate with us well, to which the RSS feed, which says, here's everything we say, you've got to watch this. That type of simple thing would have been our in the long term, would be our, Teflon shield for the brown stuff on the fan.
But I think so the question is simply, do we allow the CC min size to overtake, given that we've got at least
I see no problem in this, because the CC min size, I mean, if you work out, see if we actually sequentialize these, if we did the CC min size tomorrow, I could never do the arithmetic in my head. When would we be able to submit with absolute certainty the next one? Because we could have it ready.
I mean, honestly, I think you would have to count on 6 epochs, because I think that the CC min size may become contentious.
Okay.
There are a number of community members who, when Utah submitted this, they started talking about the possibility of, well, this will lead inevitably to the CC collapsing down to 5 members instead of 7, because some of them had the feeling that, and so this is all social. These are all social factors, not technical factors,
so
right?
I'm just trying to work out what 6 weeks from now is when?
Mid-May.
Right. So if we enact it, so that basically mid-May, right? 6 weeks from mid-May is end of June.
June.
Bosco's telling me the hard fork would be
end of June, beginning in July.
You can see, Ryan is showing the tentative timeline.
And I guess I guess I kind of feel more. I kind of
Well,
okay. So here's my thinking. One is I understand what you're saying about the sequentialization, Neil. I will give you from a socialization perspective why I think it's better to do the CC min size second instead of first. I think the Plutus cost model, if appropriately handled, will be much less controversial with the community. I think you're right. I think there's going to be some people who complain about it when a few people have some stuff break because people won't be paying attention, they won't do it right, and then we'll just tell them, well, we told you so, right? Yeah.
Okay, Adam, I'm happy with either way round, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the key point was we were all ready to do this about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and then the cost model got changed on us by the Plutus team, and the numbers.
Oh, okay, I see.
Right, it's not so. Basically, we prepped it all, right? Everything was simple and safe, and then along came this. Oh shit! They've upped the numbers. We can't just do it like we normally do, right? We have to be helpful, right? So
that's helpful context.
I'm more than happy if we shout about it that in 2 weeks' time, we can set one out. I would be very happy that we put the Plutus one on chain, right? And then you basically because they still have to be linked, right? Then you put the min size. You could make the assumption that it was going to succeed. Then
link the min size after that.
Min size a couple of weeks later, and then the debacle of whatever happens with min size will happen, because that's going to be the gating item before you can put the hard fork in.
I'm good with that. I think I'm comfortable with this sort of saying, like, let's give this 2 more weeks of socialization. I think that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate the context you guys are giving me. This is I don't know, Thomas, you tell me what you think about the CC min size. I've been frustrated because I've been wanting to get that updated, but I also have been mindful of the fact that you guys are all working on these processes that are all interlinked in many ways. And so that's why I kind of wanted to come here to get the context of this and make sure I knew what was going on. So Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think I already said it. As long as we don't interfere with the Plutus cost model in any way, I'll endorse submitting the committee min size right away. If it affects Plutus cost model in any way, shape, or form, I would always put Plutus cost model ahead of it.
Yeah. So let's continue as we were then. And we've started the countdown for submitting the Plutus cost model update. Neil, we've got another 2 weeks to run. Try and do a bit more communication on that, trying to make sure people aren't surprised. So Adam, just so you're aware, and so the rest of the TSC is aware, the changes that Neil's describing to the primitives, they would take effect before the hard fork. So they would take effect immediately. The changes to enable the new primitives would then take effect at the hard fork. Okay. So we don't want people to be caught out by there's this cost mod update going in, but it's not going to have any effect until the hard fork. We need to make it very clear. Look, guys, it's going to have an effect.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
There will be, even having submitted the update, there's still a chance for people to do testing, because until the proposal is ratified, we'll still be working with the old cost model. So we will be giving people a lot of time to be aware of the change and to make any changes to their dApps.
Yeah, and if we're giving this 2 more weeks, that means we can submit it during Epoch 625.
So the main purpose for not doing it immediately after that number changes, we've never had a figure go up before, right? So this is a risk that we knew it was a hazard, but it became a risk to people that we wanted to literally make sure they had every possible notice to object, right? Right now, if we don't get any objections, then I'm sorry, you should have looked inside the filing cabinet. when we did it. Okay, it's really about not. We have been shouted at so many times that we don't communicate with the. We're just trying to make sure they get a chance. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good
I'm
to me.
happy with that. I'm more than happy. I mean, I am completely frustrated how slowly these parameter changes we can make, right? And I was miffed when we'd spent something like 3 months getting ready for this parameter change, and then at the last minute, parameters went up, which was not what we expected. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we probably spent enough time discussing that item. Should we move on?
Can we just for the record, for the notes, what is the decision? So which one goes first?
There's no change to the previous decision, Bosco.
Okay,
Which
so
is-
Plutus
which is
cost model.
that the Plutus cost model goes first, and the
Committee mean size.
The committee mean size we could suggest, because we're not making it, follows two epochs later. Okay.
Yeah, we can ratify that at the next meeting or
Yeah.
out of that.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so moving ahead, TSC budget proposal. I've shared a link in the chat. Guests may not have access to that. I'm not sure. There's restricted access. Hi, Alex. See you've joined us. So, Bossy, could you maybe open and share that?
To share the document.
Yeah. No, just share it with me so people can see.
Just give me a sec. You mean on a Google Doc, right?
Yes. You have the
Yeah.
screen at the moment. Could you?
I think it's here in this one. Do you want me to open it or
Yes, just
schedule it? Okay, just give me a sec.
so we can just show people where we are in the
Okay.
proposal submission. Great. Okay. So state players, we presented this to the ISC, and to Intersect staff. We included the comments. We took out the comments that were made last time about various items, about the value of various items. The Intersect has changed the template. So I spent a fun morning this week taking all the stuff that we had previously written and trimming it down to fit the new size limits, which has hopefully been done effectively. So if you like to just scroll through it, Bosco, just scroll down. Yeah, so this is essentially, just keep scrolling. So the thing I want to highlight, stop. Okay, so the thing I want to highlight is we have restructured, as I said last week, to 4 work packages from 5. The budget, so I've included the feedback from UDI about the technical work packages, about the need for technical review in that. But when I was revising the proposal this week, I took the liberty of increasing the support for Security Council members. So I took the liberty of aligning it with the support for the SIP editors, and that increases the total budget slightly. It increases it by about $20,000 over the course of the year. So the total budget we will be requesting comes in at slightly less than $400,000 to support all of the activities that we were discussing. And W1, as before, includes a program of 10 technical workshops where the majority are online based on feedback from this group. W2 is the technical engagement in the Security Council. This is support for community members if they need to be involved in the Security Council. WP3 is funding the Parameter Committee, SIP editors, and hard fork working group similarly. So again, we're not necessarily expecting all of that support to be taken up, but the funding is available there to help increase the engagement to reward people for the time they're spending on those activities. And the finally, work package 4 is funding the establishment of a pilot independent technical review program. So the goal would be to set up the program to obtain sufficient technical experts to put together a pool of technical experts in 2026 and to pilot the provision of technical reviews in the 2027 budget proposal. Sorry, the 2077 budget round. And that is a fairly minimal spend. We had a discussion last week about whether the spend was enough, Neil. I haven't made any changes to the cost per review. Now would be the time to make a proposal to do that. So I'm assuming that we're rewarding at $150 per review, which is aligned with the funding that you would receive from research councils, but is not a significant return for the effort that people might need to put in.
Kevin, do you want me to scroll down more on other aspects, or
Only if people want to. So everyone in the Technical Steering Committee has had the chance to look at this, hopefully.
I just shared the link again in the chat, just in case.
So happy to take any further comments or feedback on that. But otherwise, I would think we're reaching a point where we are fairly comfortable with the proposal. You've seen it, Adam. We've taken feedback from Intersect staff. We've adjusted the proposal in line with feedback we've received.
I'll just say that on my part, I'm really happy with the proposal. I'm really pleased with what you guys are doing and the way that you're approaching working with Intersect, the community, to make this happen, and with our vendors. And so I'm like I said, I'm just really happy with the proposal, and definitely something that we're going to talk about more, I know, with the board as we move forward. So I think that we're supposed to talk about it next week to formally approve everything. So yeah.
Great, thanks. So we'll have a discussion about whether we're correctly rewarding the support for the technical reviews, Adam. So that might go up slightly. We're obviously cognizant of the community's concern about funding, but this is a relatively small level of funding, and it will help keep people technically involved in the ecosystem. So it will help continue to provide the technical knowledge and expertise that we need to properly function within Cardano. So we think it's a good expenditure of funds.
Yeah, I agree. It's always great to get more collaborators in there. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone else? Leandros, Alex, Neil, Ryan?
I'm just recreating my diagram because I used the wrong document. So ignore the one I posted.
So I'm just saying thank you, Kevin, for putting the effort in.
Yeah, and thank you, Claude, for helping.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so let's move on to the next item.
Van
Rossum hard fork. So there was a meeting of the hard fork working group yesterday, followed by a meeting of the regular release meeting, which we've determined is definitely the wrong way round. So state of play is Bossio Base. What we're expecting. So we've released Node 10.7.0. We released that late last week. Based on the benchmarking review, the team has discovered that there are some serious performance issues with Node version 10.7.0. So the bad news is that 10.7.0 is not mainnet ready. We are not going to recommend that it become mainnet ready. There are also one or two issues with the consensus, within the consensus side, that need to be addressed. They've detected some rare conditions in which the consensus could fail. There could be a failure within the consensus, not a security issue, but a node failure could be triggered, an exception could be triggered, which is undesirable. So the proposal is to put together a version 10.7.1 to fix the attention from moving 10.7.0 to mainnet to creating a 10.7.1 version that fixes these issues. And the team believes that it has found the smoking gun for the performance issues, but the person would be responsible for fixing those was away yesterday. So that needs to be confirmed and checked. Okay. So all going well, the issue has been found, will be fixed, and we will be moving to a 10.7.1. Neil.
Is this bug in the consensus that causes the node to fail? Is it a random failure due to environmental conditions, or could it be triggered by the blockchain? I.e., are we looking at a potential cascading failure where all the nodes fail at the same time, or not?
No, my understanding from the team is it's more of an environmental failure.
Okay, fine, thank you.
So if it's certain conditions that specific nodes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I was just correlated failures. Just that I just heard my alarm bell went off. It's okay, fine.
Yeah, we'll obviously check that, Neil, but it's not been flagged as an issue. But it's something that the team wants to fix. Absolutely. So then focus shifting to 10.7.1 again. What we would expect is to have a release within 1 to 2 weeks. We are still expecting there to be further changes before we get a hard fork ready version of the node, node version 11. So we would still, from where we are, be expecting a 10.7.2, and we'd be expecting 10.7.2 to become the node that became 11.x. So we're still some way out of having that version of the node. So that's the development status. Bosco, we've put together a risk register. Again, I've linked that from the chat. Maybe you'd like to present that.
Yes, just give me a sec. It's here. Sharing. They want to give me some more AI stuff. Okay, here it is.
So they want to sell us more AI stuff, not give it to us.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of premium.
So Bosco has kindly put together a risk register for the hard fork based on the one we produced for Plowman. And what we've done is I went through this yesterday. I've added in some additional risks, and I've classified the risks based on the current status as of yesterday. So what we're planning to do is to use this as a tracking tool, readiness tracking tool. And obviously, given the state we're in, there are some clear risks at the moment. The things coloured red, in particular, community not being ready for the hard fork. Clearly, it's not ready at this point in time, but it's highlighting things we have to do to mitigate the risk. Multiple iterations needed to get to node version 11.x from node 10.7.0, where we're seeing that happening. So that obviously is a risk to the timing of the hard fork. So these are the critical issues. We've included some mitigations and notes there, and we've started to identify which teams are responsible. And Bosco, you want to identify the individuals who would be the contact points for that. So the other risks, unacceptable issues found during testing and require remediation. Well, we have possibly found that in the form of the consensus issue, but it is being addressed. It might still be a risk in future, so that's a risk which could rise or fall in the table. The performance issues need extensive remediation. Well, we've had performance issues, so that has been an issue. We were rating this risk higher before the release meeting, having been to the release meeting and discovered that there may be remediations, we've lowered the current threat level of this particular risk, but it's one we have to track. There could still be worse performance issues. And then there are other things that we need to address to do with technical support around the hard fork. This needs to be raised with the developer team. We need to make sure we've got people on call techs. We need the Security Council to be aware of that. We need the incident manager to be available around the hard fork as usual. Failure to hard fork in a timely manner, this is just a general risk. So not really within control if the community decides not to hard fork, so that it's not enacted by July, then that's what they choose. But then we might have to resubmit the proposal. And the final risk is one that a generic one we've carried over. It's not a particularly serious risk, but it's a possible risk, which is the node fails to enact the hard fork. And the way we are mitigating that risk is, of course, to try and test the node on multiple test nets to go through the usual process of forking, preview, pre-prod, etc. ahead of time, and to go through extensive testing within the team. So that's just a summary of the risk register as we have it at the moment. There may be additional risks that we need to include in that register. So thank you for putting that together, Bosco. Does anyone have any questions about that or anything I've said?
Or if I may ask, so do you see any other thing that is likely to go wrong with hard fork that we didn't mention here?
I think these are if you're asking me, I thought about this yesterday, and these are the main risks that I saw. But I'd appreciate feedback from the rest of the TSC, of course, because other people may be aware of other risks, or they may have particular concerns that I haven't addressed in the statement.
Yes, exactly. I suppose we can move on. There is 13 minutes left, and we seem to skip Ryan Wiley consistently with a great start that he keeps being left for the second part of the call, and we rarely have time. So I'll just say.
To be fair, he wasn't here last week, Bosco.
Okay, I wasn't as up, so yeah. Good point. I suppose we can switch to the agenda again.
Right, Ryan, hand the floor over to you.
I think, yeah, so we did discuss Pluto's cost model, right? So we covered that one specifically already. So from SIP farm to hard fork, that's the one.
And unless there's something else you want to raise, Alex, but I think we've covered everything. Ryan, over to you.
Gosh, I was talking on mute this whole time. Yeah, I could talk about SIP 179, but since Thomas is here and this is his SIP, if he wants to give it a quick summary, that's cool too. Since he happens to be here, or if not, I could go. It's fine by me, since it's a surprised face.
No, I can talk a little bit about it. So yeah, I don't know how much or if anything at all SIP 179 has been brought up in TSC.
I think the primary thing that the TSC is interested in is using it to select SIP shortlist for the Dijkstra hard fork.
Okay. Let me share my screen then, and I can show you exactly what to expect. So let's see. So Civitas is right now the only platform that covers SIP 179. It lives here under surveys and polls, and fairly easy. You connect your wallet, and sorry, I'm on the wrong user. Okay, I'll just tell it. You connect your wallet. You can then create something that looks like this. Oops, that was the wrong one. I need to click here. So you can add questions, as many as you want. There's multiple types of questions, from single choice, multi-choice, numeric range, and open text fields. Yeah, and then you submit a transaction containing the metadata for that survey. You send that to yourself. Once the tool registers it, which takes about a minute, you can then start voting and answering those questions by submitting a transaction from yourself to yourself containing the response metadata. As I said, there is one live currently on mainnet. This one, it's created by me, and I'm the only one who's answered it so far. So yeah, you can see the responses. You can see what wallet it was, what role it had, the stake, the date, and the transaction. And yeah, you can fill in, Ryan. I wasn't prepared for this, so
Yeah, no worries at all. Sorry to call you out, but yeah. So I have been working simultaneously on implementing some of the governance tools. So the SIP does not require being embedded in a governance action, but it can be optionally linked to one through an anchor. So I was tweaking with the open source governance tools, which is GovTools, CGov, and the CF voting tool. And I have opened a pull request on each of them to integrate recognizing when one of these surveys is linked inside a governance action. So the way that would look is you could submit a governance action, probably an info action, but doesn't necessarily have to be. And it would populate the survey based off that anchor to the survey. And when a DREP or a CC member or SBO goes to vote on the governance action, it will give them the survey options as well. And the response is recorded in the voting response to that governance action. So in theory, what that could look like for the Dijkstra short list is we can have an info action that says some generic statement of this is the Dijkstra short list, and then you'd vote yes, no, or abstain on it. But then I'd have a survey of all the different SIPs we'd like to select. And then you could survey people on which SIPs they would like to have included that way. So the pull requests for those three tools I mentioned are submitted. Is actually merged into CGov. So I think you could technically view, if there were governance actions with surveys on them on mainnet, you could view it on CGov right now. Ideally, there will be some of these on preview so that we can kind of battle test them against each other, because we want to make sure that the tools read and write the metadata the same way. Otherwise, you're going to get disagreement between tools, and that would not be a good thing. But it should be mostly, other than being battle tested, I think the SIP is pretty close to being merged and ready for stuff. So we start thinking about how we want to include SIPs to be voted on. So one of the ideas I'd floated is if we want to do like a weighting mechanism, like this SIP will take a ton of work, so it needs to be weighted heavier. This SIP is, less work, so it could be weighted less. And then we could select a total amount of weight that we can include in one hard fork, so that we're not just, we're going to do all the SIPs, right? Like, it would be awesome, but realistically, we can't do that. So we have to pick and choose. And this way, it gives us a way to poll the DREPs and the community at large on which SIPs they would want to see in a hard fork.
Yeah. So the goal here is to start to get community input into the development program and into the hard fork Atom. And obviously, for that to have maximum value, it really needs to be kicked off pretty soon, Ryan. So we really ought to start polling the community as people are starting to think about preparing budget proposals, because this will then be information that can be used to support specific budget proposals.
Agreed.
What would be the process for determining the SIPs? Who gatekeeps the SIPs, Ryan?
That's an excellent question. I think somehow we'd have to determine which SIPs could be in scope, and then get a big list of them, all the ones that could be. And that's, I guess, gatekeeping as you would say it, but it has to be done at some level, I guess. So putting together that list, I think myself and I think probably a couple other people have been talking about it, so I could probably spearhead that. I do have actually a link to some of them. I'll have to find that link later. But yeah, trying to just collect community input. I don't know if there's a better way to just be like, hey, are we forgetting any SIPs, or if we just go through the SIP process and look at all the ones that have been done in the past year or two. I'm not really sure on that, so I'm open to ideas.
Yeah. So once it's on chain, you can't change it. You can't
Right.
change the survey. Right. So it's important to get the list right or maximal, not to accidentally exclude something from that list.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to brainstorm that one and come up with a solution of how we can build out the initial list to begin with. Because now that's becoming the bottleneck.
Yeah. So what I'd probably suggest is syncing up with Ryan Williams, who's one of the SIP editors. And
Right.
Ryan will probably have a good idea about which things are forkable or require a hard fork, and which don't. And then I would be maximal, so don't try to filter the list. Let people select all of the possibilities.
Makes sense.
So I'm happy to look through to commit a bit of time to looking through the list with you.
Sounds good.
Just ping me and we'll sort out some time.
Will do.
Great. Got a couple of other items.
Another SIP.
Yeah.
Again, Ryan.
Was this me again?
Governance actions. Do you want? So we can either cover that, or we can get the Andros to tell us about the KPI changes.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah, hello. It's nothing major. I haven't gotten any feedback from the product committee about numbers. I assume that they are going to give me some feedback at the call later, 5 minutes actually. The only real change that the researchers of IOG flagged, and it makes sense, is measuring the chain density during Genesis windows and not during epochs. And as far as the implementation for that goes, it becomes a bit tricky for the business logic behind this, because then it would have to be a rolling window, and then we aggregate the lowest peak during any time frame, quarter or a year. But it has the advantage that it gives us a more accurate measurement of the chain's security to long-range attacks. That's the only concrete part. Yeah, I'm sorry for jumping in. I only have about 3 minutes. I want to hear everyone's opinion about this. Makes sense? It's overkill? No.
Well, I think increasing security against long-range attacks is a good thing to do. Yeah, Andros, right. So that I would be in favour of. Very happy to come in on your call with the product committee if you pass on the details.
Yes, I will send it right over.
Great. And if you can then share the final document with us so we can look at the KPIs that are being proposed, just do that in the Slack channel, that will be great. Okay, so to finish off, Ryan, so we reviewed your proposal on the NCL budget action some time ago, that you gave us some feedback on that. Events in the community indicate that this is a good thing to progress. Why don't we have a proper discussion about it next week rather than trying to discuss it in a minute or two this week? But were there any particular questions that you had about that?
No, that sounds good. There's actually just technical feasibility of how to do the state tracking is the only complicated part, and we actually just had some movement on it on the GitHub page this morning. So, giving it a week to work on that, I think is probably a good idea.
Okay, so we've got a point of the SIP here. If you can give us any asks from our perspective, then TSC members hopefully will get a chance during the Easter break, if people have an Easter break, to look at it.
Yeah, I can quickly summarize the issue. So the idea is to do a net change limit as a protocol parameter that's enforced by the ledger, which on its surface sounds really simple. The complicated part is the ledger has to keep track of a history of two things. It has to keep the track of because it's a percentage of revenue, so it has to keep track of revenue, and it has to keep track of how much has already been withdrawn. And so the way I have it written now is to keep state for a whole 73 epochs, which is 1 year.
Yes.
Of revenue and amount withdrawn for every epoch in that point, which is a lot of state for a supposedly stateless ledger to have to track. So the feasibility of
Well, it's not a huge amount of state potentially, Ryan, because you don't have to record. You only have to record the totals. You don't have to record all the individual entries that give rise to the totals. So
Right.
you should only be recording something like 2 times 73 times whatever the size is of the values that are representing those that information. So that should be something like a kilobyte of data.
Yeah, I think it should be a very small amount of data. It's just that's been the primary pushback on the SIP discussion page. And then also the other big one is how to enforce it, whether it should be ledger enforced or guardrail script enforced, which has gone back a couple of different times on which the better way to enforce it is. And also, should it be enforced at proposal enactment or at proposal submission is another question. Because I don't think a guardrail script can do it at enactment. It can only do it at submission.
If you want it to be effective, it has to be at enactment, doesn't it, Ryan?
Right. Which, as of this morning, I think now we're leaning away from using the guardrail script and towards the ledger and enactment as the enforcement mechanism.
Because otherwise, what can happen is you can get, say 5 or 10 proposals submitted at the same time, none of which breaches individually the net change limit, but when enacted collectively would breach the limit. So I think you have to enforce it at enactment time. That means it would have to be done in the ledger rather than in the guardrail script.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, you could put a loose condition in the guardrail script, which was this action by itself would not breach the current NCL, but then you would have to you'd have to extract information and expose information from the ledger to the guardrail script, and that is not being exposed. So the ledger is not passing on information about the last 73 epochs.
Yeah, there was also discussion about whether epochs is the correct mechanism to have it, right? Because in theory, you could just have it do 1 for the whole year, but then you'd be locked into a yearly cycle by the ledger. Or you could do quarters, or you could do months. Like 73 is just because we use epochs anyways, and that's how many epochs are in a year. It's seemingly arbitrary, but it could be less state to track in theory if you use a bigger chunks. It would just be less resolution on your window.
It would be more complicated for the ledger, I think, to deal with an annual change than with a number of epochs. The number of epochs could be counted automatically.
I'm also inclined towards epochs.
And then what you're assuming is some rolling window, Ryan.
Yeah, that allows us to have. I think having a rolling window is a good thing because they're not like, oh, I have to wait till next year to submit my NCL. It's just constantly refreshing, which I think is a good thing. So
It's certainly different.
yeah, on its surface, this SIP is quite simple, but the details get a bit more complicated the deeper you go into it.
They do. Yeah, so you'd be changing the rush to spend treasury funds as soon as the NCL is announced,
Yep.
to make treasury proposals as soon as the last big spend has reached at 73 or whatever the number is, epochs difference.
Mhm.
Right. So I should probably go and join Neandros. Bosco.
Just wanted to say that elections applications have been started for all committees, and currently TSC is the only one without that. It's too early, but I'm just stating the obvious. Seems that nobody wants to join you guys. Just kidding, it's too early. It's too early to say. Generally, it has just started, but I'm just saying the only one without any application so far.
So let's again push that. So I think you push that in the Slack channel, Bosco.
Mhm.
But
I will for whatever we didn't discuss and I think could be important and useful. I will start to thread in Slack. No worries.
but let's also promote it via the TSC X account. So let's post that out and encourage any TSC members whose term is coming to an end to consider reapplying. So please do consider reapplying.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying. Okay, that's it from my side anyways. I'm stopping sharing. We'll share the notes as usual, if possible, even today, as soon as they're available. So that
It is indeed scary, but you have to overcome your fears, and it's incredibly important.
I agree.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Catch you again next week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.